Greetings, I'm Karen Colligan, and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. We're going to do things a little bit different today. This is episode 25 for the Let's Talk Leadership podcast that I started in June 2020. Today, we're going to shake things up a bit, and I'm going to have Mike Mansbach interview me. Mike's a colleague and a dear, dear friend, and I've interviewed Mike for this exact podcast in July 2020. So Mike is going to ask me those same 6 questions I've asked all my previous guests. So Mr. Michael, take it away.
Karen, it's so good to see you, and thanks a million for the opportunity to do this again with you and to flip roles. What fun. Let's start with the same question that you asked me, that you asked all of us. How do you, Karen, how do you define leadership?
Well, it's so funny. So Mike, I've obviously done 24 of these. And when I ask people, how do they define leadership? What I know is everybody's said something different. It's really been fascinating. And so when I think about leadership and I think about what does it really mean to Karen? It's really about clarity of purpose. It's clarity of vision. And then where is the organization or the team headed? And much more importantly, why? Why are we headed in that direction? And then once that's clear to everyone, there has to be a way to inspire those to see that vision and to really stretch themselves to want to do the work to get to that vision. So when I think about leadership, I think my role is to help people be more than they expected they could be. And I have to allow each person to own that uniqueness about them. And so got to have purpose, got to have vision. I got to be able to inspire people. And then I need to allow people to be who they are and figure out those stretch goals and how to get there. And then the last thing I want to say that's been really, really important for me and that I've been noticing for myself is leaders have to appreciate people. And so why can't people say please? And why can't leaders say thank you? I don't know, is that so hard? And so at the end of the day, if you don't have the strong people around you and you can't lead them and you don't appreciate them, I wouldn't work for me. So that's kind of how I sum it up.
Thank you for that. And it's interesting. You kind of lead to our next question. And I suspect you're fairly practiced at this, which makes it wonderful. How do you think about the correlation of leadership and values? And then what are yours? What are your top 2 or 3 values?
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing that I continue to realize through my leadership journey and my work with leaders is that if people are not crystal clear about their values, well, you shouldn't be a leader because the values are what's going to be your guiding light. It's going to help you make those really hard decisions. So values for me are critical. So when I think about, I've got 3 that are really important to me. And the first one is integrity. So when I was growing up, my dad drilled in all of our heads that one lie leads to another. And before you know it, you forgot the first lie you told. It's really hard to forget something like that when it is literally drilled into your head. So when I think about integrity, and I think about my colleagues and I think about my team or my clients, if they don't trust me, why the heck would they do business with me? And vice versa. I mean, I'm not working with people I don't trust. It's not even an option. So I want people to tell me the truth, even if it's the truth that I don't want to hear, because that tells me that they've got the strength to do that. So that's one, no question. The second one, Mike, is I'm going to use the word bold. And I use that word because it really encompasses quite a bit. It's what do you stand for? And what do you stand against? You got to have a backbone. You got to state your opinions. You got to hold strong to your beliefs. And with all that, you got to protect and defend your team. So if you don't have that backbone and you're not courageous, I don't know, do I really want to work for you? So, and I'm not saying, you're courageous at everyone else's cost. I mean, you have to collaborate, you have to debate, you have to listen. And to me, what's bolder and more courageous than hearing, debating, listening, and then changing your mind? It'd be like, yeah, maybe I'm not so smart anyway. And so being bold and really making sure that you can be flexible in that boldness. And then my third, which I don't think would surprise anyone that I know, is joy. If I'm not finding joy, I ain't doing it. And so that's one of the reasons I left corporate America. I started PeopleThink because I thought, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So I have to find joy in my work. And it's not like I want to have a party every day. Not that I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I want to be my best self at work. And when I'm in a good space and when I'm doing what I want and what I believe I should do, then that brings me great joy. I want to work with colleagues. I want to work with clients. I want to work with. And I think joy has an enormous amount of emotional intelligence around it. And it breeds me to be more empathetic. It breeds me to be more kind and really self-aware. So those are the three: integrity, bold, and joy.
It is so heartening to hear you include the concept of joy in your values and your principles. Imagine a world where everybody got to put joy as a filter in the work that they do or in the leadership that they espouse or follow. I mean, just imagine a world like that. And I've got to say, Karen, that conviction or bold and joy, as a father of two teenage boys, I get both of those in great spades. Integrity, sometimes I get.
It depends on what the want is.
Exactly. There's a lot of teaching that goes on with integrity. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And we're currently going through an enormous amount of transition, of transformation, of change. We've got a pandemic, we've got a social awakening, and we've got social and economic implications of both. How do you think about, and how do you want us to think about, how do you lead through a transition and change?
Yeah. Obviously it's been insane and for the past, 20 months, who even knows what the number is anymore. But the way I really think about business and I think about transition is it's a constant. So the pandemic was something that we didn't expect and B, thought would be this long. And what we had to do is be flexible within that transition. So it's really important for me to think through the transition in terms of how is it going to shift the outcome and then the process flow. And that if I get too tied to a transition, like too tied to the way I'm going to do something, Mike, and Mike, me, I do have some control issues, a few little control issues that are joyful, just a little itty bitty ones. And so what I really try to do is I can't get too tied to it. When the pandemic hit, I had just launched on March 6th, 2020, the Keep It Real leadership program for new and emerging leaders. On March 13th, 2020 in San Francisco, we went on lockdown. Transition. Wow. I mean, could you burst into tears? Yes. Did I? Yes, of course I did. Did I fold up into a little ball? Yeah, I did.
You had a week.
Yeah, exactly. I had a week. Get that baby out there. So I kept thinking about how do I not get so tied to the outcome, which is how do I get the Keep It Real program out there? Well, yeah, I cried a little bit and I stomped my feet and I was mad at the pandemic. And then I was like, oh, okay, all right, got to make some shifts. So for me, transition is really about not being so tied to the process flow of getting to the outcome and still working towards the outcome. that's a little bit about how I think about transition. And it's traumatizing. It's emotional. That whole thing for me had nothing to do with clarity of purpose or vision anymore. It all became how I felt and what was the universe doing to me. And it, it had nothing to do with what the universe was doing to me. However, emotionally, that's where I started. Good, bad, or indifferent, Mike. That's what I did.
Thanks, Karen. I'm curious, what's been the most challenging part of the pandemic for your approach to leadership? How have you thought about it differently today than perhaps you did 2 years ago?
So when I think about the pandemic and I think about the people who came out of the pandemic still rising, if you will, and being more than, as I spoke to earlier, those people and the way they look at who they are as leaders. Because the way I think about it, Mike, is every single person is a leader, whether you're an individual performer or you have people that are working for you. And so when you could be clear about how you were going to get to that next place during this pandemic, I really saw a lot of people rise and really say, okay, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I have to. And I've also saw some people who didn't accommodate that shift and transition and change so much. And they struggled as I did. However, at the end of the day, I finally figured it out. And so what I learned is that through the pandemic, leadership was so crucial to every single human being.
Thank you for that. And one of the things that you have taught me, as I'm sure you've taught many, many people over the years, is that that each of us is capable of, and to a certain extent, responsible for leading. It's not a title that gets printed on a business card. It is a byproduct of other people believing that we hold or have something that we can impart that will help them grow. And that has been such a great teaching of yours, that each of us is accountable, is responsible to lead. And I think you're right. I think the pandemic has created a vast number of leaders that may not have known that they were capable of or even interested in leadership prior to. Thank you for preparing us for that. You know, the best leaders are, to that extent, the best leaders are curious and always learning. What tools and resources have you used recently or further in the past to continually grow and develop?
Well, when I think of curiosity, I mean, that is how I survive. I can't live. I'm always looking like, oh, what's next? Oh, what can I do next? Oh, that's exciting. Oh, that looks like fun. So for me, being curious is the way that I've survived my life. And it's the way that I've run PeopleThink, and it's the way that I operate in the world. And nobody who hangs with me, whether it's work, professional, personal, doesn't know that I'm going to be looking around the corner to see what's next. So you know, I learn from being curious. And then, you know, Mike, these Let's Talk Leadership podcasts for me, as I said, I've done 24 so far. It's hard for me to say how much I've learned from everybody I've talked to, because I've talked to leaders in all different roles, all different industries, like tech, biotech, entrepreneurs, academia, and everybody looks at it in a different way. And so my hypothesis was every leader is unique. And as I continue to do these, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was that smart. Yes, every leader is unique, and you just have to spend some time thinking about it. So curiosity and learning and talking and to other people is really what it's all about for me.
Thank you. You know, I've always been curious of and about your brand, your logo. What does Keep It Real mean to you?
Well, Keep It Real sits under the PeopleThink brand, and Keep It Real, if anyone looks at the K, will notice that it looks like a fingerprint.
It does, now that you say that.
It does, yeah. And I had a branding person. We worked long and hard to figure that out. And the whole concept is be the leader only you can be. And in that uniqueness, stand tall, be bold, and be clear about who you are as a leader. So the reason I started Keep It Real, Mike, was because I continually realized that people are being put into leadership roles. They don't have any experience, and they think, oh, you were great at this, therefore you will be great at that being leader. And like, no, leadership is a set of competencies. What are you doing? And so for those new and emerging leaders, they need some training. Like, let's give it to them. And I know I've told you this before, but only 47% of people who go into a leadership role get training. That's insane. Like that number, that's almost 50, like that's crazy. So like my little heart, I just love like the people who have fire in their belly and want to learn something. And so, why don't I give them what I know? And so that's why I started it. That's where the brand comes from. And it's all about being clear about who you are.
That's super. And how do you give your folks development and growth opportunities?
Well, it goes, I think, back to curiosity. And you and I, you just mentioned it earlier, Mike. I can't drag them to the water and make them drink it. So you, as the person who works with me, has to tell me, what are you curious about? Where do you want to stretch? Tell me and I will help you. I am not going to come up with it for you. It's just not the way I roll. Yeah, it's not fair. It's like the way I think and the way you think, they're two different things. So help me to help you is the way I look at it.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome, Michael.
And the question that you end all of these with is this great contextualization of how do I stretch my brain into what piece of art or music or literature or whatever else keeps you balanced and brings you to that great principle or value of joy.
Yeah. Funny, I would end a podcast with joy. Oh, I mean, where do I begin? So the big thing for me is music. And, anybody who knows me, I got music playing all the time. Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band, Southside Johnny, the Asbury Jukes, give me some rock and roll. I mean, it just gives me great joy. Seeing live music gives me beyond great joy. I just moved to Manhattan in November of 2020, and it's been astonishing how much joy Manhattan gives me. Talk about options, talk about being curious. I mean, I walk out of my door, should I go left or should I go right? I'm like, really? I mean, really? Do I live here? So a crazy joy. Family, friends, the Jersey Shore. Oh, but that's where my soul is. I fill up every year. I got to go to the Jersey Shore. So I got a lot of joy around me. I feel incredibly lucky and joyful most of the time. Yeah, most of the time. I do. It's true.
And Karen, does your decision to go left or go right when you leave your door, is that influenced by what you do on Tinder? Swipe left or swipe right, swipe right?
Oh, you're so wise, man. No, that is not what it is. Oh, you couldn't help yourself, could you? No, not Michael. No, it is a physical being of walking left, Michael, or walking right, Michael.
I understand. You sound so natural when you do this.
Well, it's something that I really love doing. So to say to everyone who's listening today, thanks for listening. I'm Karen Colligan, and you've been listening to me and Mr. Michael Mansbach talk about leadership. And if this leadership podcast is of interest, share it. Go to peoplethink.biz and really think about those other 24 people I spoke to. You're going to learn a lot because I know that I did. Till the next episode of Let's Talk Leadership, have a good one. And don't forget to keep it real. Music by Poddington Bear and editing by Mary Lee Williams. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Karen.